Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed at episode number 76. Would you care to play a card game? I'm Keith.
That's not bad. That goes with Phantasmical.
Yeah.
Lame.
See, I told you.
You're right. It was bad. I'm Sean.
But we're going with it anyway.
We're going with it anyway.
That's what we do. If Keith underperforms, we're still going to take it.
I blame the scheduler for putting these two stories together.
Yeah, they just didn't. I mean, it's not like we haven't done stories together before that didn't really have a common theme or a matchup. But these two
those
were
are few and
just
far between.
yeah,
when we
and
don't.
this one was like
Quite honestly, you know why Phantasmagoria was on the schedule?
because you couldn't find anything else.
So that we could get it over and done with. I'm not going to tip my hand, though, and let you know what I thought of it.
This is the second time I've listened to it, so yeah. Well, I had you put it on the schedule. It's been 10 years since I've heard it. I've got to listen to it again.
And the second time around?
We'll talk about it later. I followed it a little better, I can say that. All right, well, what'd you guys do this week?
Sarah had her bridal shower yesterday.
I saw her tweet or Facebook post on that.
Yes. A lot of people turned out, and fun was had, and lots of presents were given.
Ooh.
Including?
Getting good stuff?
I got a new coffee pot.
You
We
did,
don't
or
want to
Sarah
talk
did?
about the coffee pot.
And I did. I was actually present.
She doesn't drink coffee, right?
She
So,
doesn't.
it is
I was
basically
actually
yours.
present for the bridal shower.
Oh, okay.
I took pictures and helped wrangle nephew
I
and
gotcha.
whatnot. Haul the load of everything. And Mel got Sarah a purse made of duct tape that looks like the TARDIS, which she thought was really cool.
Which, by the way, that sounds weird. A purse made of duct tape, but it really is
it's
cool
like
looking.
a wallet duct tape.
It's very, very cool.
A duct tape wallet.
Yeah, it's very cool looking.
And it's blue duct tape.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not
yeah.
just silver with...
Well, and then I think there's black duct tape,
And
and then
black and
they've painted on
windows
the...
and-
Yeah. It's very, very cool.
It is cool. It's neat.
She's probably going to want to reinforce, I don't know if Mel said anything, but before she puts anything really heavy in it, she can run some stitching through the handle where the handle's attached to the rest of it, and that'll help reinforce that.
I'll let her know that.
But you can't put it through a sewing machine because the duct tape is gummy.
Okay. I'll let her know that.
Just hand do it. And that's pretty easy.
It's a small area,
And
too.
you don't
It's
need
not
a lot
like
of
it's big.
stitch.
She's crafty. She can do that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
She's crafty. That's Sean's excuse all the time. Yeah, she's crafty.
She's
can do it.
crafty.
She had to make a on Thursday. There's this work function that she's going to, and I'm going with her. And they had to decorate rubber ducks. Excuse me.
Rubber
for
ducky,
like a race, and then there's a
you're the one.
beauty contest. She did her Superman. And she actually physically made a cape for it. I was
Oh,
the
cool.
cape was really cool. I was really impressed by it.
Very cool.
And then they said she can't have it.
Why?
Why?
Something about tainting the pool or something, so she had to paint the cape on.
Oh.
Yeah. I think when we
Painting
put
the
it on this,
pool?
when we put, I didn't understand
that's
it either.
weird. Okay.
So when we put it out on display after it's all said and done, I'm putting the cape
Oh,
back
sure,
on.
absolutely. Very cool.
So, that led me to another thought, by the way. I think Sarah can do a whole line of Doctor Who.
Oh, she probably could.
Doctor Who?
Doctor Who.
Oh, Lord.
And we've got rubber duckies that are all painted to look like
Each Doctor?
each Doctor.
Okay.
Tell me you wouldn't buy a set of
Doctor
those.
Who.
Only if 1 and 2 were
No, but
black
if
and white.
if a set was given to me as a present, I'd take them.
Well, see, there you go. If you're looking for something to get Vortex Glenn for Christmas,
How about you, Glenn?
I got a new phone. That was pretty much it. That's all I did this weekend. We went out and priced phones yesterday and went and got one today. So it's an iPhone, so Sean thinks I'm even more sheepish.
He's the king of the sheep now.
I am.
He's king
I
of
am
sheep.
the emperor. I am sheep emperor in charge. So yeah,
as
to
long
go
as
with
you're
my,
not a were sheep.
I
I'm
am
fine
now with my wife still has PC, so I still have to delve into that. Now, my work computer's still PC, but I personally am now a 100% Mac or Apple guy. So
So
all the way across the
you
line.
like your iPhone so far?
I do so far. I've only had it
Is
for
it
about 8 hours now.
4G or the
it
newest
is,
version?
It is, and it's got Siri.
Ooh.
She's not going to answer me.
Which is
Siri? Oh, Siri. But I didn't ask her anything. Siri, do you like our podcast? Oh, she won't come up now. Siri.
I'd like to present
Well,
for
I want to
Exhibit
take
A.
the phone back.
Did you see the story on CNN about how Siri is actually saving information and whatnot?
Yeah, and sending the information to Apple to. It's actually part of your terms of service that
Is
you
it?
sign. Yeah.
That's not surprising. But there are some
Yeah.
third-party ones that do it too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not just Siri. It's. I have a feeling if they catch a lot of flack, they may limit that or allow you to disable the sending. Siri. Oh,
Your Honor,
Now-
the
now, is this the phone-
prosecution
was-
rests.
Was this
yeah,
the
no
iPhone
kidding.
that
That's sad.
was this the same model that had all the issues with the antenna? Or is this
This
one
is,
new
but
one since-
that's been fixed since.
Okay.
So yeah, it was actually the 4. The 4S is the one that they.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
still the newer one.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
the newest. This is
Yeah.
the lowest gig, but it's the newest
so it was
iPhone.
like 4 or 3,
This is-
3S.
yeah, there was
4,
3, 3S,
4S.
and then there was 4 and 4S.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
that's
this is
still-
4S. Yeah.
It was
Sorry,
4
where
that
you
had
at?
it.
Siri, where am I at? Siri.
Do you have to open an app or something?
No, you're supposed to say Siri, and she's supposed to come on, but I'm a little disappointed.
Siri or Siri?
Siri. It's Siri.
Never fails. You get in the bath and there's a rub at the lamp.
Yeah.
That's where she is.
Where are you at, Siri?
Did you say eviscerate the
Siri,
proletariat?
find Sean's phone number. Well, I'm going to have to.
While Glenn
Spank
looks
her
for
when I get
his
home.
genie. Sean, how was your weekend?
It was good. It was very, very hectic and busy. We had a birthday party Saturday, and Mel came to Sarah's bridal shower also Saturday, and then we had our viewing of Wrath of Khan Saturday night in celebration of the 30th anniversary, which was technically last week Monday, but nobody could do it Monday, so we had a very busy day then, and we went out and played some disc golf this morning, and against the better advice of a friend of ours who said, "Dude, it's too windy." We went anyway. You know what? It was too windy. I was beat, just exhausted by the time we finished. And we even skipped, 4 holes because it was like, I'm not throwing near the water today. It's too windy. But and then Friday night we went and saw Prometheus, which is why I was late to Friday Night Who.
How was Prometheus? Is there a review up on the website?
The review's not up on the website yet. It will be. I'm gonna work on it tomorrow. I liked it. I think it's a very, very good movie. But the more I dwell on it, it's one of those. It's a thinking man's science fiction film. So it
See, I heard it didn't work as a science fiction film.
Well, I think it does. I think it raises a lot of questions. I think it's one that you will continue to discuss after you've seen it. And well, what about this? And how did that work? And,
So everybody who didn't like the ending of Lost won't like Prometheus.
We're not going there this week,
I'm
Keith.
just saying.
And then
If you like Prometheus and didn't like that, hypocrites.
But here's the thing. I think it worked as a thinking science fiction movie. I think there are parts of it that worked as an Alien prequel. The more I think about it, the more I'm not sure that's true.
Well, Ridley Scott has gone on the record saying, "Hey, this is not a
He's full
prequel
of
to."
crap. It's totally a prequel to Alien. It is set in the same universe. That much is definite established. We're on the same planet. We've got the same ship. And the same sequence of events, kind of, sort of, that leads up to the formation of that. I mean, it's there. It's not in any way. And I got news for you. I'm going to spoil this. Spoiler word if you don't want to know. There's one in the movie.
An alien?
Yeah. And not like a other being, like a xenomorph. Okay?
Yeah.
But, having said all that, I just... The circumstances that conspire to get us to that point, when you're watching it, it's like, oh wow, cool. But then when you sit back and think about it, you're like, I'm not really sure that works. It's definitely one.
Well, could, as you said there, and all the connections to aliens just be the fact that Ridley Scott may not be as great of a director as we think?
No,
Could he be
visually? It's amazing.
Well,
it
yeah,
is,
but
That's what I've
for
heard.
storytelling,
It's a fantastic
and
visual film.
direction, visual aside, like just from construction of a film, could he just be on a crutch?
I suppose that's a possibility. I'm going to go back to something that Glenn touched on off mic, which was, you know what? I'd rather have a well-made prequel than a really horrible sequel any day of the week. And this, I think, falls into that. It's, while you may not like it, it's definitely a cool movie, and it's something that's going to get people talking. Like I said, the jury's still out on how I actually feel about it. I really liked the movie. There's parts of it, and people will say, well, it had a lot of plot holes in it. And I don't think so. I think they just chose not to explain certain things because they wanted to keep that mystery out there, kind of like 2001 or the remake of Solaris and, things like that. It's kind of those kind of films. It also, in a way, feels a little bit like, did you guys ever see Mission to Mars?
No.
Mission to Mars had this really great premise, and it was this gung-ho, let's go explore the galaxy, and this is going to be great and fantastic, and it wasn't. And they just kind of failed miserably on that premise. This has that same feel to it, but I think it works better. So, I don't know, I liked it. It's you almost have to see it and then make up your own mind and to get back with me. But I'll try and get my review up tomorrow.
Sorry, is Prometheus a good movie?
I found 4 movie theaters fairly close to you.
Well, she found the theater that might be playing in. Sorry, is Prometheus a good movie?
I found 18 movie theaters. 15 of them are a little ways from Surrey.
Explain to me why I need this.
I guess apparently she hasn't seen it. So
Ask her if Avengers is a good
apparently
movie.
she thinks I need to take her because she's finding movie theaters for it. Sorry, is The Avengers a good movie?
Let me think about that. How about a web search for Is the Bingers a good movie?
The Bingers?
The fingers?
The Bingers. Sorry.
Explain to me again why I need this.
Sorry, go back to bed.
I don't see any places matching back to bed. Sorry about that.
Apparently, it's only on location search.
Yes.
He hasn't trained his Siri.
I haven't
enough.
trained my Siri yet. Although Caitlin, boy, she sure loves Siri. Gosh, all day long she's asking Siri questions. The best is the Siri, what's your favorite color?
My favorite color is, well, I don't know how to say it in your language. It's sort of greenish, but with more dimensions.
That's her favorite.
Ask Siri what time and relative dimension in space is. Something along those lines. Give her Doctor Who one.
Siri, what does time and relative dimensions in space mean?
Let me check on that. I can't answer that, but I could search the web for it, if you like.
Ask her what TARDIS stands for.
Siri, what does TARDIS stand for?
Let me think about that. How about a web search for what does TARDIS stand for?
Well, she got the name right that time.
She did. Yes.
Searching for what does TARDIS stand for?
Does that just pull up a webpage?
Yeah,
now?
and then it pulls a webpage. Unfortunately, she won't tell me what it is. That would be kind of cool.
Ask Siri what the best Doctor Who podcast ever is.
Siri, what's the best Doctor Who podcast ever? I screwed it up, so she's not going to answer it right.
Let me think about that. Would you like to search the web for Siri what's the best Doctor Could Poop podcast ever?
The Doctor Could Poop podcast.
No.
I knew I messed that up. Siri, what's the best Doctor Who podcast ever?
I don't know that. Would you like to search the web for it?
Siri, the best Doctor Who podcast is Traveling the Vortex.
You don't have any podcasts matching Siri that
Never mind.
Kid tested, Siri approved. I'm going to chalk this up.
I can search the web for. Never mind, you just a Siri group.
Anyway, go on.
I'm going to chalk this up to the same category as your open. Lame.
Well, that's going to be this week's episode. Lame.
There's
your episode title.
Suri is fun. Suri is just learning.
Well, she's
I
a
wish I
day
could
old.
rename her to Idris. That would be so cool.
That would be cool.
But
then she'd bite you.
I look forward to you bringing her back next week when she's graduated first grade. And we'll see how she does.
Are you smarter than an iPhone?
Yes.
All right, moving along. Anything else you guys want to talk about this week?
I want to bring something up.
Sure.
You guys, we kind of touched on this way back when, and I haven't said anything, just not because I'm not immensely proud of both of you, but just from the standpoint that it hasn't come up recently. You guys have both... Can I talk about this?
I don't know what you're talking about, so
I know what he's
I
going
don't
to
know
talk
whether to
about.
approve it. Oh, yeah.
That you guys have both stopped smoking.
Yeah.
Yes.
And has been how long?
Month and a half now.
Let's see.
It was early May.
I'm ready to start week 2 of step 2.
And you
the
haven't
patch.
had any, right? You're still
Right.
just on the patch.
I'm just still on the patch.
So
And doing okay.
And you do 6 weeks on step 1. So we would be going into week 8.
yeah, so almost 2 months.
I mean, that is
Or would it be week 7?
phenomenal. No, you're week 8.
Still almost 2 months.
Yeah,
either
because
way.
I bought. It threw me off because I bought a month's worth of patches the last time I bought patches.
Oh, okay.
So I'm trying to count how much I have left and
Right.
you know.
And you seem to be just hunky dory fine.
Yeah, I went
no
cold.
no
I
problems at
did.
all.
I did Nicorette the first week, the gum, and I have to get completely off the chemical dependency in order for me to be successful. And so once I cold turkeyed 72 hours, I was good. So the nice thing about it is what happens to me is I can get off of cigarettes. But if they're around me or people are smoking around me, that's when I tend to go back.
And it's not just me and Glenn
Right.
that quit. There are 2 other
There-
people that
there
work
are
And
two
that's
quit.
helped a lot.
Yeah,
It's been
well,
a
there
group
were
of you
3,
There
but
were
one of
3,
them has
but
gone
one-
back. But
yeah.
he's been real gracious. You don't really know that he's smoked unless he comes back in and walks next to you. You know?
Yeah, and he's only there for when you're there an hour.
For only an hour after I arrived.
He's there
yeah.
for like an hour and a half when
Right.
an extra for me. So
And having lived, and I live with Keith, and I can say that he's been okay. I mean, he's not been.
Well, I'm sure the patches help that too. They kind of
yeah,
take that
they
edge
do
off.
help.
So.
Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy.
I'm proud of both of you.
When it's hard, I just go get something to eat. Typically.
Fortunately, he's got this really bad dog biscuit addiction now.
Milk bone.
What really impressed me is one of the guys that quit with us was literally a 2.5 pack a day smoker,
Oh.
and he gave it up. He and his wife. She's our morning show producer. And he gave it up, and I haven't seen him smoke once.
He's kept me in check. I have kept him
Yeah,
in check
I
too.
think he
and
feels so
hasn't at
much
all.
better too because he has some health problems. I think he's diabetic.
He is
and
diabetic,
whatnot.
and-
So, but he's just really looked and much improved. If you ask me, it
Yeah.
just looks like he feels better. So,
Well, I just wanted to pass that out there because I know our listeners are proud of you as
Yeah,
well
well,
as I
thank
am.
you.
thanks.
We didn't want to make a big deal out of it.
You should make a big deal out of it.
beforehand. Well, we made a big deal out of me quitting last time, and it didn't pan out.
stick. One didn't stick for
That's
me.
why I haven't said anything for 8 weeks. So,
Great, now I'm going to fall off the wagon.
No,
you're
no, you're not. You got to stay smoke free up to the wedding anyway.
yeah.
Up to the what?
Well,
I'm entering the 2 month of stress of crunch time.
that's why it's a good thing to start quitting early because
Yeah.
if you started quitting right at the beginning of that,
true.
it'd be even worse. So.
It'll be easy sailing after the wedding because then we don't have to worry about the wedding
There you go.
anymore.
That's true.
We can enjoy life again.
That's true.
You could elope.
It's too late. There are deposits down.
And I've already put a deposit down on a tux. He better not elope. All
You
right.
just have an opportunity to wear the tux somewhere. Then. Where are we going? Basketball game. All right. Put the
why
tux
not?
on.
Why not? All right, let's talk about news. A certain picture came out this week that I posted on the internet.
There's an official. I don't know if it's official or leaked. It looks official. Picture of the Doctor and his new companion
Yes.
in the Doctor's new outfit.
Yes. That's the official picture.
Yeah,
but
this one.
if you'll notice,
but
the background on the new picture, it's different from what they...
Oh, I didn't notice the background. I just thought the two were put next to each other and said, hey, look at the similarities.
No. If you look at the background, they're posing in front of the same background as the First Doctor and Susan.
Oh,
there just happens to be a TARDIS behind the First Doctor and Susan.
The TARDIS
is that a
is there in
TARDIS
this
way
one.
in the background?
Yeah, it's way in the background, but it's there.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't sure.
Okay, now I need to go find the original
Anyway,
to compare.
I don't know too much about this because it just came out on Twitter this week. I saw it, thought it was kind of unusual, and thought it was neat, even though everybody keeps saying it's photoshopped. Because I think I have seen the original picture. I think I saw it earlier in the week, and they're not on that background. But anyway, so I saw that, and I thought it was kind of clever, so I thought I'd post it on the internet. It certainly fueled a lot of speculation for a lot of people that didn't realize that it might be fake. But
Yeah. Well, but still, her mannerisms, quote unquote, in the picture next to just
she's doing almost the same thing.
Because I didn't notice the background. I didn't realize the background was the same until now.
Right.
So to me, it was like, oh, the outfits are similar. The manner, the pose is similar.
Yeah.
Which
is, I think, why somebody chose to add that background to it, because somebody realized how...
I don't think that's a photoshopped background, because this is the original one I saw. It's the same.
No, it is.
It's the exact same. So they
photo.
just put the two next to each other. I think they added some sort of filter. They Instagrammed it or some
that's
crap.
what it looks like. They've cut it. But yeah, no, you're right. That is it. And now that I think about it, that's the original that I saw. Now, did they? The question then is the other one photoshopped? Let me see the
First
First Doctor and Susan, because that was the big thing. Is this came out?
Oh, that's possible.
And then followed up maybe hours later, were all the people talking about how this was photoshopped, and a lot of people said, "No, it's obviously photoshopped." I didn't think it was obviously photoshopped. But
Maybe I could see the top being photoshopped more. Actually, now
The William Hartnell
William Hart, yeah,
Susan photo.
the two of them look a little almost out of place now, to me.
I think it's pretty cool, though.
It is very cool.
Either way, it's
and we still don't have her name.
Nope. That's Clara. Oh, Sean, you sent me a Words with Friends.
I'm going to say
I didn't realize you had.
They're going to name her Zaphod
I didn't realize you moved.
in honor of Douglas Adams.
Babelbra.
Or
Feeblebras.
Trillion.
Trillion. Yeah.
Trillion would be cool.
Anyway, that's a cool picture. It's on our Facebook page.
That's a cool picture on Facebook. Sean's got a bit of news.
I'm
He
leaving
may
the
have a new
show.
job.
I'm leaving the show. I can't do this anymore because I am going to Cardiff to become the new Doctor Who script editor.
We'll Skype you in.
Cardiff, Wales.
Cardiff, Wales.
Yeah, that's what Keith said. He
Well,
said it earlier.
you don't have to leave.
When
You can
he
Skype.
dropped that bomb earlier, we said,
I'll
"We'll
be
just
far too
Skype you."
busy.
Sarah
Yeah.
and I can move into the main bedroom.
I'll
We'll
be-
have Blake move into the smaller bedroom, and we'll just take over the entire apartment.
There you go.
I'll be working with the Moth. You know.
You'd find time.
Yeah, I probably would.
Or Glenn and I would go on, and then
imagine
during
the-
your off season,
imagine
how much
the-
script editing is there? There's
Imagine
13
the-
episodes.
wait a
You got to
minute,
have them
wait a
done
minute.
before they even
Keith,
start
Can you
shooting.
imagine the exclusives?
Oh,
and
I know.
all of the interviews we would have. It'd be fantastic.
Oh, picture this for a bumper.
Friend of the show, Stephen Moffat.
This is Sean Collins, script editor for Doctor Who. You're listening to Traveling the Vortex.
Ooh, we could have Moffat's Corner like every week. It'd just be something
yeah.
from the Moff.
Grand Moff Stephen.
I bet Matt Smith would absolutely do a
Oh, hell yeah.
interview.
Sure.
The Wales Drama Department, based in Cardiff, has produced such popular dramas as Doctor Who, Upstairs, Downstairs, and Sarah Jane Adventures.
What are those other two? No, just kidding.
Hey, Alex Kingston's on Upstairs, Downstairs.
Yeah.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
So you
Which is why they probably mentioned that in Sarah Jane.
if anybody is interested, you will ensure commissioned scripts are of the required standard, conform to the editorial brief, and available for use when required. Furthermore, you will advise on all script-related matters associated with production and manage the relationship between the writer and the production.
Oh, so you wouldn't be only working for Doctor Who. You'd be multiple shows.
I don't know. It says Doctor Who script editor vacancy. But the application deadline is June 10th, so I got to get my
Is that on the official BBC website? Cardiff, Wales, BBC?
This is not, no, but I saw it originally on there, yes.
So
I couldn't go back and find it.
you need to find the original.
I need to
find out if it's only Doctor Who or
Well, you
if
know
it's multiple
what?
shows.
Upstairs, downstairs could use Slovene.
I think upstairs, downstairs fans would disagree.
Everything would be made better if Slovene
I did a little
were
research
involved.
on that show. It sounds kind of interesting. Do you guys know anything about it?
I don't know anything about
I
it.
know that...
It started in the 60s and ran for a couple of years. And then they brought it back, and it's a continuation.
Huh.
It's not a reboot.
Oh, that's
really?
kinda cool.
It's still on?
Yeah, after a 30, 40-year break. It's kind of like
it's a continuation of the 2-year
like
season.
what they're
that-
doing Dallas.
Ah.
It's that kind of thing.
I have to admit, there's a part of me that's kind of intrigued. If I had cable, I'd be kind of curious to sit down and watch the new Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
wouldn't. I didn't watch enough Dallas to be
You know, I watched it as a kid off and on just
Yeah.
because my parents
I mean,
watched it.
I know the iconic cliffhanger, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I probably would watch a couple episodes. I don't think I could get hooked on it.
I don't think I would either, but I'm kind of curious
It'd
about
be
that.
interesting.
Is it going to be a full series, or is it going to be a miniseries?
No,
Full
it's a full
series.
series, yeah. But like 13 episodes each season, so I mean, it's not like a full run or anything.
What are they going to do if, what's his face is getting up there in age?
What are they going to do if he's getting up there in
Well,
age?
he's
He is
getting up there and up in age. What happens if?
He kicks over?
Yeah,
I'm sure they write it into the show. I don't know.
And then Glenn will have a piece on the 10 o'clock news about it.
Yeah, there you go.
that's more 9 o'clock stuff.
That's true. The
'Cause it's
celebrity deaths go to the Fox show.
Although I tend not to put it in there because I don't want my show that depressing at 9. Because I put my entertainment news at the end of the show.
It's true.
I don't want to end on a down note.
You should produce morning shows.
He
More for
does-
the hours.
he does from
I
time
do
to
sometimes. If it weren't for the hours, I like
All
the
right.
stories in those.
Let's go on to feedback then.
Feedback.
Feedback. I can't snap tonight. There it is. What's the feedback?
Our first bit of feedback comes from Dan. And
Hi,
it's
Dan.
a bit of audio feedback. So let's take a listen.
Hey guys, this is Dan from Central Illinois, or you know me as K9UDF on the Friday Night Who Twitter feeds. I know I haven't sent you guys any feedback since the Cyberman archives, but anyway.
Get on with it!
Okay, going back to Mark of the Ronnie, where the Doctor and the Ronnie are both talking about the appearances and where you guys were talking about if it had anything to do with the regenerations. Alright, Glenn is close. Okay, I'm not going to use the Glenn Close joke. Sorry. But they're not actually talking about regenerations. They're talking about their disguises. As just before they entered the bathhouse, as they revealed one to the other, the Ronnie had a wig and a nose and all that. She was able to take that off. That's where she said she could change her appearance, but the Doctor, even though he just wore a coat and a handful of ashes, couldn't change his face, and he was stuck with that. That's all they meant. Okay, and to change the subject even further back in your episodes, at one point you guys had discussed possibly a Wookiee voice for a GPS unit. Well, Garmin gives away a Yeti voice, which we've played with, but unfortunately it scares my children, and if you're on a really long trip, it just wouldn't make much sense. Have a listen. Yeah, just be careful what you ask for. I can see where a Wookiee or R2-D2 would have been fun for 5 or 10 minutes on a trip through town, but as far as long-term navigations, it's useless. I could see it now, maybe like C-3PO, K9, if we can get John Leeson to do that. Daleks might grate on you. Cyberman, yeah, okay. I know Nick Briggs could probably make those voices bearable and usable. And I know Tom Baker at one point had read the dictionary and had it recorded digitally. And you could have made your own out of that. It was TomBakerSays.com, and I just checked it, and it's been up for years, but it's just been recently pulled for legal action. Go figure. How about you guys? What voices would you have chose? Twiggy from Buck Rogers, any of the other Muppets. Beaker would be another useless one, but anyway. I can also see that I'm starting to run this thing a little long, so I'll go ahead and cut it short, and maybe I'll get some more feedback as you get more of the Rogues and Renegades out of the way. I've got a few thoughts on those. So anyway, keep up the good work, guys, and we'll catch you on Friday Night Who when I don't have to work. See you later, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
A Glenn Close joke.
That was pretty funny. I do like when people write in or voice in and support my
I think I was arguing that point that week too. I'm pretty sure I was. I think it was me against you two.
For the record, all right. For the record, yes, I understand that's where the disguise question came from. I can change my appearance. But I think it's an interesting what if. That wasn't what she mentioned.
I'll give you that. It's an interesting what if, but they were talking appearance.
I think a John Leeson canine GPS.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think that'd be awesome too. I can't think of a better one.
That's the perfect GPS.
Sean did bring up Daleks. He'd like a Dalek one. That would be as annoying as the Yeti or Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Or R2-D2, yeah.
The Yeti.
That's pretty funny. Yes. It doesn't help me
really,
one bit.
Even the Silence or the Cybermen and the Daleks, and you know how much I love Cybermen, I think they would all get really obnoxious after a while.
Like a Big Finish Audio.
Yes.
Full of Daleks.
Or anybody that whispers.
Yeah.
Any villain that whispers. Which is the Silence.
No, that's an Ice Warrior.
Nice.
They both do it. You will not remember.
I'm still hearing Ice Warrior.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's how they sound in the Eternity Clock.
Oh, really?
Kind of.
Are there Ice Warriors in that?
No, it's Silence.
Speaking of the Ice Warriors, or speaking of the Eternity Clock, you never have done your review, have you?
We forgot to put it on the list today. So
That's all right. We're going to do it after.
today.
We're going to do it after we hear from Holly.
All right. Holly writes in next. She says, "Hey guys, great last episode. Looking forward to more book talks / reviews in the future. Here's my thoughts on the Keys of Marinus. Overall, not too bad of a story. Kind of an interesting setup in the beginning of the story. Really didn't like Arbitan all that much after he decides to put a force field around the TARDIS and won't let it go until the Doctor and the others help him get the keys. I was groaning in disgust when one of the Vords came up and stabbed Arbitan. There was a lot of the let's stick together, but we'll move faster if we're apart going on throughout. Plus, who has the micro key and if it's real or not, just got a little frustrating. The 5th episode was interesting with the legal aspect and Ian being framed for the murder of Alto's friend. The recreation of the crime with the doctors, Susan and Barbara, was very cool. The Doctor certainly does have the flair for the dramatic in the courtroom. The cliffhanger for the end of the episode was interesting. Altos and Sabetha. I don't think that's how they said it. That's how it's spelled. Sabetha, yeah. We have a town in Kansas called Sabetha, so that's why I pronounce it that way.
When I saw it spelled out on my Twitter stream, I was like, really? And then they said it in the episode. I was like, oh, okay.
Sabetha have more of a role to play during the last part of the story than earlier. The wife being behind the death of the guard, I could kind of see coming. Loved how the guards at the end, when the Doctor and crew disappear with the keys, was like, we're not telling anyone what we just saw. They left. We're not going to tell anyone how they left. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this episode. Keep up the great work. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly. Appreciate the feedback. Of course, we're going to review Keys of Marinus very soon. But first, Keith has finished.
I finished it.
Actually finished it weeks ago. Keith has finished the Eternity Clock.
2 trophies away from getting the platinum.
Really? Wow.
The ones I'm missing are completed on hard and completed in under 300 minutes.
Which you won't do both of those at the same time.
Yeah. Because I've started through on hard, and there's no way I'm going to do that in 300 minutes. For those that don't know too much about it, Doctor Who: The Eternity Clock is a game released on the PlayStation 3 and soon to be released on the PlayStation Vita and PC.
Boo!
Yay. Sony knew what they were doing when they got this licensing.
Yeah, exclusivity sucks. Unless it's exclusive to me, I don't like it.
You have access to it, though.
It's not the point.
You still have access to it.
No.
You do. It's in your house.
Yes, but it's like a foreign body has entered my house and is trying to interface with
it's
me.
fine when you want to watch any movies, but not when you want to play a game?
I watch movies on it because I have to.
You don't have to. You can watch it on your Xbox.
I can't watch Blu-rays on my
Just
Xbox.
glorified Blu-ray player, right?
But he pops in DVDs in the PlayStation.
Well, just because it's easier.
It's because you're used to it.
Once I figured out how to... Well, first of all, it's always set up for that. Once I figured out how to do that, it was just like, just throw it in there.
Well, and I don't have to continually download codecs
Keith,
or whatever.
how is the Eternity Clock?
The game is a lot of fun. It is really fun. It's a side scroller where it starts off. Should I spoil this whole game or should I keep it spoiler free?
It's a lot like Lost.
It's not a lot like Lost.
Only it made sense. And it was enjoyable.
We should give the spoiler warning next time.
Okay. Spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning!
If you're going to play this game and don't want the major plot points revealed, skip ahead 20 minutes.
My God, are you going to talk that long about it?
Probably not. If you get ahead 20 minutes and we're talking about something else, rewind. I could talk 20 minutes about it because there is a really good plot to this story.
No, you can't because we have 2 things to review this week besides this.
It starts
You
off...
mean when he kills that whole family with that blank?
It starts off with the Doctor and the TARDIS, and the TARDIS is not happy. And he sets her down as soon as he can because there's some time distortion. And he's in the Bank of England. And so you start off in the Bank of England learning how to control the Doctor. And it's set up, as I mentioned before, a side-scrolling platformer. Which, for me, I'm not used to playing side-scrolling games, so it took me a while to get used to it. Which, for those that don't know that term, it's like...
Think Mario Brothers.
Mario Brothers, but you can go backwards.
Yeah.
Like New Super Mario Brothers on the Wii.
Yep.
You can go back and forth. It's not constant.
Or
You have
Sonic.
to keep up. Or
Like
Sonic.
you've always been able to go
Yeah,
backwards
that's true.
on
Sonic, you could always go backwards. But there is a third dimension at aspects. I mean, you would get 2 corners and you could go up, like what would be up, or continue going. And that would turn this, you would basically turn left and go through a doorway. So there's stuff like that does add the third dimension. And then there is also the 4th dimension, but I'll get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
So the Doctor gets through the Bank of England, and you're learning how to use his Sonic to do things. And it's Supermassive Games did a fantastic job capturing the Doctor and River for the most part. I had issues playing River. It was easier to play the Doctor than I thought than to play River. But when you Sonic something, you're straight-armed, all over the place. You can point it any direction. It's just like the Doctor does. And it makes the noise the entire time. It lights up the entire time. And you sync up wavelengths in order to unlock doors. So, for me, a lot of the Doctor's use of the Sonic makes more sense now on doors and stuff because you match up a wave, a sound wave.
It doesn't do wood.
It doesn't do wood in the game either. It never did any wood. So, but then
Good. It's not supposed to.
And then
What breaking and entering? What I break? Sonicking and entering.
okay, once you get, and then you get up to a point where you can't go forward because there are dual controls in order to open this door. And good thing the TARDIS calls River. And so then you start breaking out of Storm Cage. You see how she breaks out of Storm Cage.
Because now you're playing as River.
Now you're playing as River, and you sneak past guards. You use your hallucinogenic lipstick. You kiss guards. In fact, there's a trophy for kissing so many guards.
Nice.
There's also a trophy for sonicking so many things.
How was that, Keith? How was kissing guards?
It was a lot of fun. But some of them you kiss and they do things for you. Some of them you just kiss to get by, to get past them so they don't set the alarm. Which there is a trophy for escape storm cage without detection. It took me a while, but I did get it. And then you escape and you get your gun and your vortex manipulator and you go to the doctor. And then the two of you are together, for the most part, through the rest of the story.
It was actually quite humorous watching Keith try to escape Storm Cage without detection.
I was not stealthy at first.
No.
I don't like stealth games.
Run away, run away.
There's a lot of sweeping laser lights, and if you step into the light, the alarms go off. And he would run through the first couple and be, oh, it's on the other side of the room. Sneak, 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 and he'd be over there. And then it would pass by. Sneak, sneak, sneak.
And the pattern would change.
And that's what he claims. What actually happened is if you can cue that music where the girl starts running down the hill in slow motion, he makes a beeline for this laser beam like it's his lover on the beach. Like, please embrace me with your manliness. And all of a sudden the skies go red and it goes, and we laughed at him.
But I was still able to do it eventually undetected. And there is a trophy for doing it under a certain amount of time, which you can get detected, which I got that before I got it undetected. Because you got to take your time. Anyways, the Doctor and River get out of the Bank of England and into the sewers, where they encounter Cybermen.
Cool.
And the Cybermen are... It's almost Cyber-Bob-ish, where they're in these sewers, and there's this refugee camp, and... there's very little interaction with them, but you eventually get out of the sewers. I think
somebody owes you money.
I think so.
You get out of the sewers.
Unfortunately, they were stupid and only did it on the PlayStation 3 because a lot of people could have owed me money.
I'm sorry, who had the better press conference at E3 this year?
I don't know. I didn't go. I wasn't invited. They didn't pay me.
You can go. You just have to pay.
So Cybermen in the sewers.
Cybermen in the sewers, and you play... Throughout the game, you do mini games. Predominantly with the Sonic. Most of them are fairly easy and fairly fun. There's one where you have to line up symbols, and it's kind of like kind of Tetris, but nothing's falling. Like, there are 3 blocks.
Wait, stop.
Okay, that's not a good analogy. That's not a good analogy.
Kind of Tetris, but nothing's falling.
It's kind of like a banana, but no, forget the banana. There are 3 blocks. Each one contains a symbol, and they are rectangles, and they're all one. And you have to connect circuits, essentially, using these symbols, and the 2 circuits at either end are a symbol. So you have to connect them.
Oh, God, what is with circuits in games? There's many games nowadays. It was in that
most
silly
of the time, this is
Dalek
computers.
game, that PC game, that Doctor Who PC game.
They
was
are
in
normally
that silly
computers,
Worlds in Time game. Is connecting circuits.
Well, he's rewiring things.
Yeah,
so that's the closest they can come to actually.
Over and over again.
This one is... It's not too bad. There's one I did not like and was horrible at, which was... It was connecting circuits, but you had to rotate wheels in order to complete the flow, which I for some reason I could not get a hang of.
It was odd that you did much worse on that one than you did on the rotating pictogram.
There's rotating wheels where you rotate one wheel, it rotates another one, and you have to line up a picture.
Oh, okay.
Once I figured out the pattern to it, I could do that no problem.
Okay.
It made my brain hurt.
There's a certain pattern you have to turn one first, and then another, and then another, and another, and it will all line up right at the end.
Okay.
Other mini games include beams of light that you have to either let through or stop from passing through gates, and the ones that you are supposed to stop will open the gates. So you have to close them.
So needless to say, there's several different.
There's a variety of mini games, and you get through the sewer and stopping the Cybermen from advancing on this homeless camp. or refugee camp, and you climb up, and there's this giant hole on one side where a gas line has ruptured, and then a building on the other side. So they're like, "Oh, look, we can't go this way. Let's go this way." And
He's got this.
that's because he's seen this far.
I've seen this part of it, and it's one of those things. I can't decide if I should be very pleased at way cool use of time in a Doctor Who game to make this work,
But
or
let
if
me-
I
let
should
me
be
get- let me get
incredibly
there.
frustrated over how it's like, really, you made me go
There's-
through all of this to do this.
There's a doorway on the other side of the hole, and it looks like they could step around it because it's not fully ripped out to the doorway.
If this wasn't a 2D scroller, you could walk around.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem with it. But you go into this building and you continue through, and you discover a time fissure. And there's a time fissure over by the hole in the street too. And then you continue walking and you discover a Cyberman base ship.
What's a time fissure?
It's kind of a rip in time where if you have a vortex manipulator, you can enter that fissure and show up at a different time.
Oh, okay.
That's already that the fissure determines. So something's ripping apart time,
Okay.
in essence. But they go through and discover
It's not River, is it?
No, it's not
okay.
River. It's a Cyberman base ship, which, according to the dialogue, one of these could convert the entire planet. So, after they discover that, the time fissure activates, because it was in a dormant state before. And so
Conveniently.
the Doctor takes River's vortex manipulator and goes up and enters it. Now, I should probably continue by saying everything in this game, for the most part, takes place in a 3-block radius. Or in a 3-block span.
And you can't finish this in under 300
Up and
minutes?
down throughout time.
Okay.
See, that's where they get it. You go back in time, and the Doctor reroutes the gas line so it doesn't create a hole in the sidewalk when it blows.
This is the plan.
Well, that's the Doctor just cheating.
we can't get across the street because the gas lines have ruptured and there's a giant hole in the street. So how do we fix that?
Go back through time
We go
and fix
back in
it so there's
time
never a hole.
and change the plans to reroute the gas main somewhere else so that the hole doesn't rupture and we can walk across the street
that
when I get
actual
back.
plot
or
line,
it ruptures somewhere else. The Doctor doesn't have to worry about it.
that plot line comes in later, and it's kind of like they were thinking when they did this.
Well, if I
Let
was,
me get to it.
If I was thinking, I know where I'd make it rupture.
Even better. So the Doctor reroutes it and comes back, and they get up and they go over the building, and there's this whole. This is where playing as when you're in the single player, when it's River and the Doctor, you play as the Doctor, and it's fine. It's somewhat frustrating playing as River, especially in this part, because the Doctor goes down and does his thing, and then it goes back to River, and she's got to open the gate to get outside. But then there are Cybermen, and Cybermen have to break the glass in order to get to the door. And it's just time-consuming, and it's frustrating. And that's the thing with a lot of River stuff, is sometimes her gun doesn't shoot where you tell it to. It's just frustrating playing as River when you breeze through things as the Doctor, but River, you kind of struggle at completing these areas. But they get over the building after River finally gets the door open, and they move a girder, and they climb over, and they get down into the Cyberman building. And then you got to get your way through the Cyberman building to the Cyber Controller. And there's this weird piece that they have to something that they don't know what it is, but it's emanating time energy. And so they work their way over there, and they get to it, and they get it, and it immediately opens a time fissure, and they jump in. And it takes them into the vortex, which this was, until I got the hang of it, this was frustrating. It's another mini game, but you're playing as the Doctor, and you have to rotate platforms in certain, like, here's a set of 8 platforms, but you're on a set of 2 at the very back left-hand side. You have to rotate in order to match those up to ones where you could cross over.
I don't mean to. I don't mean to come back to here, but are we going to step through the whole plot of the game, or are we just going to review it? I mean,
okay.
I think a lot of people might still be itching to play it, and they want to be surprised.
Then you get to the TARDIS,
I think we
and then
should
you
be
continue
careful
on. Regardless, they've already. If you've seen the trailers, you know who you encounter. You encounter the Silurians. The Silence, which I want to talk about the gameplay in that, because that was really creative. You had to stay behind and keep the Silence in sight. Of course, there are some walking in a set pattern, but you had to stay behind them and see them at all times in order to complete the level. Otherwise, you forget and go back to the beginning.
Oh, that's clever.
I thought that was really
good
cool.
Device,
yeah. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of Silence in this game. They were a very, very small part of it. And then
Cybermen, Silence,
Silurians, and of course Daleks.
No
And
Ice Warriors.
What? No Ice Warriors. But the Cybermen, but the Silence kind of sounds like how I was. Yeah. Overall, the plot.
John's over here shaking his head. No, not
you didn't
so much.
hear them in the game.
That's true. I didn't get to see that part.
Overall, the plot is very interesting. Essentially, what you grabbed from the Cybermen was a piece of the Eternity Clock. And the Eternity Clock is ripping apart time to put itself back together again. And so that's what you do the entire game. And it ends... Should I spoil the ending or should I wait?
What do you think, Keith? Or Sean? What do you think, Keith? What do you think?
I don't know. I'd like to play it at some point. I mean, I sound like I've been poo-pooing it. And I don't mean to. It was very cool watching
you
Keith
play
play.
through
It was
this
very
game,
well done.
and it's kind of the ending is kind of expected and not that surprising.
Really?
Well, I bet he fixes it.
I'm going to go ahead and just spoil it.
I bet he fixes
Spoil
it.
warning.
Has it been 20 minutes?
After fighting a pain of a final boss in the Daleks. Oh, it took me forever. It was getting me angry. You assemble the Eternity Clock. And then it takes over the TARDIS and takes you somewhere. That's where it ends.
Oh, wow. So kind of a cliffhanger.
A cliffhanger ending.
Really?
They fully expect and plan on doing a sequel.
Oh, good.
Good.
From the way this ended, which I fully support. I will continue purchasing any as long as it's of this quality. I will continue purchasing the Doctor Who games.
Great. Go ahead and review then.
Yeah,
I mean, watching him play it, it looked like it was a lot of fun, and there were some genuine, like when you're in the sewers, you're in the railway stations, and it's of course side scroller, but there's tunnels that you have to leap from spot to spot to spot, and down these tunnels are marching squads of Cybermen. And you can't let them get to you.
And you got to activate the electricity on the rails.
Yeah, the Doctor hands River the sonic screwdriver. He's off doing something else. So River has to jump from section to section to section and then use the sonic to electrify the rails, which wipes out the squads of Cybermen. But before long, they start coming, and it's like 2 tunnels at the same time. And, I mean, it gets really intense. Some of it was pretty intense.
Sounds like Tapper. Remember Root Beer Tapper, where you had to run down the line and fill the root beer?
Or in much more basic, it was Space Invaders.
Space Invaders are coming down, you just had to shoot the lines. Yeah.
And this should say, if you're a gamer, this should say volumes to it. There are collectibles that you collect, and there are some I missed. When I went back and replayed levels, I didn't mind. I still enjoyed it just as much.
Yeah,
good.
So that
its replayability.
Its replayability is fantastic. There are frustrating points in it,
right?
But overall, the replayability is so much. It's so much there.
And what are those collectibles?
You get hats.
Hats. The Doctor's hat fetish comes back.
And previous hats from previous Doctors, and then you collect River's journal pages.
Oh, cool.
Which
not as cool as the hats.
You collect
but
4
in itself.
Like each page is torn into 4, and you collect like a total of 5 pages. But
so there's 20 of them spread throughout the game. Then.
20-ish, yeah. There might be 6 pages. I can't remember exactly.
Hats.
But the hats are cool. But you can't put them on the Doctor and play with him wearing the hat.
Aww.
Yeah, that
River's
part sucks.
Diary.
Oh, fail. Epic fail.
You get to read River's Diary.
Epic fail.
You
on
get to
the
read
Doctor.
about River going back, meeting Hartnell's Doctor, the first Doctor, and her synopses of every Doctor before 10.
Oh, wow.
And then a story about Jim the Fish.
Oh, cool. Cool.
And, yeah, so it's a really entertaining read. I had to stand up and go closer to the screen because the script was just too small for me.
Sure.
And it looks like handwriting, so...
Terrific. So, what's your
if you have a PlayStation system, or when it comes out for PC, definitely worth your money.
Definitely worth the money. All right. Well, unfortunately, I don't have a PlayStation 3 or a PC, so I'm kind of
Or a
screwed all the way
PlayStation
around.
Vita.
So, anyway. Well, very good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and it
I
sounds
honestly
like a glowing
I would
review.
be surprised if they didn't release it on Mac, too.
Yeah.
It's usually
They
PC
might
Mac.
eventually. I think if it does well enough, they'll port it over to 360 as well, Xbox. So,
Maybe the second game.
well, they have to do the first game first.
We got Mass Effect 2. We never got Mass Effect 1.
Yeah, but it's
Do you know
PS3,
why?
That's why.
Like Microsoft does anybody any favors ever.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next review. So hopefully, if you're joining us now, hopefully it's been 20 minutes because I wasn't counting.
Well, I spoiled the beginning, but not too much in the end. But
You spoiled the beginning and the end. yes.
there's the journey that's worth it.
All right,
the journey is worth it.
Worth the ride.
Because there are also subplots. The
They're like,
keys.
how do we get around this gas main explosion?
What are these bad guys doing here?
That was just it. Like I said, I was like, wow.
Do you want me to tell you how the gas lane comes
No, I
back,
don't
or
want
you
to know.
want me
I
to
don't
tell
want
you
to
about?
know.
No.
I don't want to know.
The Keys of Marinus. On a remote island of glass, surrounded by a sea of acid, there is a machine that can remove evil from the minds of an entire population. The Conscience of Marinus. Fearful of its immense power falling into the wrong hands, its sole guardian has scattered the machine's operating keys across the planet. The TARDIS crew.
The evil TARDIS crew. What?
Evil's the second line. I jumped ahead. The TARDIS crew arrives to find the island under attack by the evil Word. Marinus' last defense, and its only hope, is the conscience machine. The Doctor and his companions must undertake a deadly quest to recover the keys of Marinus.
Dun dun dun.
Really?
Huh.
Yeah.
I thought this was a very solid story, really enjoyable, fast-moving.
This is at the top of my Hartnells.
I would agree.
Top of the list of my Hartnells.
And you liked Aztec.
Yeah.
You like this better than Aztecs?
No, not better, but this is at the top.
Oh,
yeah. This is not the very top.
This is like
of the
in your
list,
top
but this is
five.
in the top of the list. Of
This
my
would probably be
Hartnells.
number 2 for me
This is
after Time Meddler.
near the top of my
near the top.
Hartnells. Yes.
The story is familiar. I mean, it's a trope
Really?
of them going. Oh, look,
on
our
a
band of
quest.
travelers have to go off on a
Yeah.
quest and collect items.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I'll give you that. But, I mean,
But there's so much of this that the reason why they have to collect the keys in order to instill violence back in their people. Wow.
Yeah.
No wonder the Doctor said no and was forced to do it, like Holly mentioned.
Right.
I don't think the plan was to instill violence. I think the plan was to get the machine to work and take the violence out of the Vood.
No, I got the impression that the idea was to put back what was taken out of the Marinuses. Isn't that what you got?
Well, I sort of did, but now that Sean says that, it doesn't make sense that the machine, the keys, and when the machine's working, the idea of the machine is to take the fighting and violence out of the Marinus.
I thought they did that, and then it was out, and then with breeding it continued.
Well, no, the one guy found a way to overcome the machine, and he and his followers are rebelling against it. They are hoping to get control of the machine so that everybody will worship them.
Right.
This is one of many problems I have with this script. It doesn't make a lick of sense.
Well, I don't know that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. I don't think that. I don't
guess
think
I
the lines
misunderstood
all
that
come
then.
together real nicely. I will give you that.
No, they don't.
But what I do like about this is the best part of this to me is a mini Key of Time
Oh yeah,
series.
there are
is what it
so
is.
many things.
This is where
story.
Key of Time comes from.
Yeah.
This is where the idea of this comes from, and this
there's
is
a
where
lot
it's
in the
done
story that
right
it's
because
pulled later.
when it's done over, it works in Tom Baker's era because you do full 4-episode story arcs, and then you tie them all together into one large story arc. But I actually like this better in the sense that it's each 25-minute episode is really its own mini story.
Yeah.
And that's what I enjoyed most about it, is each place that they go, each key that they go to find has its own confined story. I like the idea of going on these quests. Yeah, again, maybe it's a trope, but I enjoyed the fact that they're sent off. It's a bit odd when they separate so that the Doctor can go
on holiday
to Spain or wherever
And
he
then
goes.
Susan goes on holiday.
Yeah, but she wasn't gone from this as much as
Not
the
as long
Doctor,
as
I
the
thought.
Doctor.
Yeah.
It was a shorter holiday.
You don't notice
was a weekend
You don't
getaway.
notice Susan gone as much, I don't think. But anyway,
According to Wiki, the Doctor himself does not appear in episodes 3 and 4 of the story due to William Hartnell having been on holiday.
right.
So we were right. Well,
Isn't
but he
that
wasn't
what
in.
hiatus is for?
But he wasn't in Spain.
It doesn't specify.
back in the day,
Back in the day, there
schedules
really
were
wasn't much of a hiatus, was there?
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, sure. I mean, they had breaks
Some,
between
but-
seasons and stuff. So, but anyway, regardless of the fact, it's good, and I think I love Barbara, especially in the second story, and I absolutely love her in. Was it the Jungle one? I thought she was just very clever. Now she's still
The Screaming Jungle.
She's
There
still
were, there were
she's still
times
in
where
some
she slipped back to the
heroin and having to be rescued
the
type.
stereotype.
But there
But
wasn't
she
a
did
lot of that,
transcend it.
and when they did do it, it was done well, I thought. And I mean, you had Ian there to have to rescue her, and I liked that. It was
Unlike Susan, who spent most of these episodes screaming in
Yeah,
terror.
or
of
running
everything.
into trouble.
I
I mean, her
joked
and-
on Twitter that the Screaming Jungle is Susan screaming in the
Yeah.
jungle.
Her and the blonde-haired gal, they go off and they're exploring that cave, and they got locked there first of all. I mean, by the Haggard's little brother, as somebody put on the Twitter feed, and
Well, that's what Blake said.
But when they go,
said
that's
that,
right.
yeah.
That's right. It was Blake that said that. And so they go off and they're exploring, and it just I don't know. I've really come to the conclusion that I just don't like Susan. I mean, she really is just
She's the young.
getting in trouble all the
Yeah.
time. I mean, just
She's the
having to
Dawn.
be rescued. I don't know.
Well, and it's weird because I was thinking about this today when I was rewatching it, because I was rewatching the parts that I missed being at Prometheus. And I realized how much Susan's character had changed from the first episode of Unearthly Child.
You think she's changed in a downward spiral?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, yeah. I would
agree.
Because
I think that's where she's at her best. Is in
well,
that.
but
now.
yeah, the first, not
Although-
the whole, just the first
Yes,
fourth
Although
of
in
Unearthly Child.
Invasion of Earth, she starts going
that's
back
what I meant.
up.
The first episode.
Yeah,
of Unearthly
the first
Child.
episode of that, and she's precocious and she's different and she's alien and she's this and she's highly intelligent, and yet still a teenager, and it works. And then they go on these series of adventures and put her in danger every episode, and she turns into and it's like, what happened to the precocious? I mean, she's like Carl on Walking Dead. She keeps wandering off and getting in trouble, and it's like, oh, I'm ready for you to be eaten at this point. I don't know.
I like the Voord. I like they were very cool looking.
They were cool.
I mean,
looking.
their motives were simple.
I like that they
They
weren't
want
in
to
it
take
too
over the
much.
machine so that they can have the power.
Yeah,
and they weren't in it much.
And I totally called the fact that they killed
Yeah, they had
Professor.
the- Professor?
Or
Was he
no.
really Professor?
Um,
Yeah, the guy.
Yeah,
in
the
the
guy
jungle.
in charge of the conscience of
yeah.
Marinus.
Yeah, yeah.
Yartek.
Yartek.
No, Arbitan.
Arbitan.
Arbitan. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the fact that I don't know, it almost seemed like a quick resolution at the end of which how clever of Ian.
Well, it
to
sort of
give
was,
him,
but you only
to
had
give him
6
the fake
episodes
key.
to wrap everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
To give him the fake key. I thought the trial dragged out a little too long because that overlapped an episode a little too much.
Yeah,
I thought,
but they did the whole cliffhanger thing with Susan being captive and
yeah, but all the other cliffhanger. Oh, I guess the cliffhangers kind of were the beginning of the next.
yeah,
location.
they really
That's
because
true.
well the Screaming Jungle is let's
Was
see.
this jungle screaming?
Yeah, well, that's the beginning of that. Where she comes and then like jungle screaming.
the episode
But then
before
when
is where we
when
end
Ian
it.
and Barbara show up, it stops, and then of course they're comforting Susan at that point. So,
And then the frozen wastelands of after the screaming jungle is the cliffhanger of the screaming jungle.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. Just after such short and concise stories, the trial just felt a little dragged out to
I didn't
me.
think it was that bad. I don't know. I thought it was.
Maybe it was just getting late and I was getting tired.
I thought it was paced out all right.
Overall, the story. This is the best paced 6-episode story
I think
I've seen.
part of that is because each episode is really its own little micro story,
Yeah.
and I think that it almost makes me wish that they had continued along that course, that they had continued to try that. And as John Boy pointed out, there's a lot of people that don't like this, and I think because it's so different. But I totally enjoyed this story.
It's
and I
more
really
serial,
liked
not
to see it
as
happen.
No, it's more procedural, not as
You
serial.
always get that messed up.
I know. The first time I always get messed up.
Here's the deal. I like the quest. I like the adventure aspects of it. In fact, in a way, it very much reminded me of an episode of Next Gen, where we land on the planet and we've got to solve problem X in time slot Y before we can get back to the ship. I mean, it's kind of got that trope to it.
Yeah.
But I like those kinds of stories. So it's like, yeah, okay, let's go. And I don't mind the fact that every episode's got its own little self-contained plot. I mind the fact that Marinus is the most jacked up planet ever. Now think about this for a minute. Okay, we're on an island of glass in a sea of acid. This is Doctor Who. I will totally accept that with no explanation. Go.
It's almost like they actually go to other planets when they turn the vortex
That's the
manipulators.
problem.
That's
Then
what I liked about it, though.
We
is
go to a city.
that the whole planet is this whole totally
How big
different.
is this planet? Yeah.
Well, we don't know, but it's all of these different locations, and they're all kind of being controlled by these different entities and beings. That was very cool.
No, that wasn't cool. That's the problem with it. It's not cool because we go to the city and everything's wonderful. And okay, never mind the fact that Barbara only had a 5-second head start on them, but when they
that was a
arrive,
bit
it's
weird.
like she's been there for 3 weeks waiting.
That was
on
a bit
them.
weird.
Okay, whatever.
Yes.
And the city is under control by brain slugs. Brain slugs in jars.
This probably was one of my favorite parts of the story arc. Was probably one of my favorites.
Now, this is.
I agree. That was one of my favorites.
This is the first
Wait,
time.
you stopped your part of this one.
I did. I went back and watched it. Yeah.
This is the first time.
Isn't that
in Doctor
funny
Who-
though? That's when I felt I was exhausted though.
This is the first time in Doctor Who that we get an honest to goodness alien. Because,
The Daleks were in.
well, but I mean,
No, they were mutated
dolls. I mean,
They were aliens though.
but
Well,
These brains were mutated.
that's what I mean, though. These
beings
are
that just became brains and
we
an
never,
eye stalk.
They
two
never
eye stalks.
explained what these beings were.
Let me rephrase. This is the first time we get a bug-eyed monster. Because I don't consider the Daleks to be that. The Daleks are robots
you don't see
or
the,
whatever you want.
you don't see them.
I'll give you that.
What they really are until later.
I mean, we've had cavemen, we've had Daleks, we've had Marco Polo, we've had other time things, but we've never had an actual monster. Boom, here it is. It's a
The
brain in a
Daleks were a
jar.
monster, but okay.
It's a brain in a jar. No explanation. How did they get there? Why are they running that particular city of the planet?
didn't
Why
need
haven't
it.
they taken over the rest of the planet at this point?
I
So
didn't
many
need it.
unanswered
I
questions.
didn't really
Clearly,
need it
because
either.
they were still establishing things. I mean, the one
But-
gal couldn't even put the thing on Susan right, so they decided they're going to get rid of her, or Barbara right.
Barbara rolled over and it
So
fell
they're
off.
going to get rid of her. I mean,
They need a
clearly the
better
workforce
system.
isn't working, and they rely on their slaves.
That's the problem. Is that okay? So we've
Well,
got
there's
that.
no problem.
No, that isn't. That's a huge
No.
problem. You can't introduce these aliens. I mean, that's a great concept.
And it was resolved in enough
Didn't
time.
go anywhere.
Yeah.
It was resolved.
No, they didn't. It was resolved. They're burning the city down.
Barbara comes in and smashes.
Well,
Well,
they're
after she
rioting.
releases them from their control.
Obviously, this city is larger than what we saw.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And yet, no concern for the populace at large. No concern for the rioting. No concern
How many
for
times
but
did
they're
the doctor
taking-
try to
they're
run away
taking- they're basically-
at this point?
They're
He tried to
basically
run away from
taking
this
their
whole
city
mission.
back. Yes, they're burning it, but they're taking
it was
their
a
city back.
dump.
It was a dump, but it's now
But
it
they
has a
didn't know
chance.
it was a dump.
has a chance to evolve into something else.
Okay,
into a new
so
society.
then we go to the Screaming Jungle, and we're in this weird Aztec-esque...
This one was the one that I had the most problem with. It was a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
It was a bit bizarre.
And it
The
doesn't fit.
Plants are alive.
It fits because it has its own unique niche. in this story.
Well, that's what I
you're being
liked about
far
it.
too generous.
That's
with
what
this
I
story.
liked about it.
Then we go to the caveman or the ice ward, up on the mountain. It's like, okay, Earth has different environments. I don't have a problem with the fact that this is a jungle and this is a snow and this is this.
What I have a
fine.
problem with is, okay, we mentioned the rioting, and then especially in the ice, and then the next location. I thought Marinus was free of violence except for these words.
That's
Well,
the problem.
that's the
is
problem
that
with this story.
We said everything. This is typical Terry
It's not,
Nation
which is
falling
what
down
makes
on the
me,
job.
what makes me think when Sean was on it was when they pull the keys from this thing's no longer working and is not drawing the violence out of
Then what's the
Marinus.
point of taking the keys out and spreading them outwards?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it
To prevent the guy from having violent tendencies?
that would keep the Varud from
Give
even
him-
forming.
No, it would give everybody violent tendencies. So now
Which obviously it did.
Well, but that doesn't make sense. You set everything up in episode 1, and we've removed evil intent from the populace, well, except for this one guy. He managed to overcome it, and then he got a bunch of followers together, and they all overcame it. He trained them how to do it. I don't know. Okay, whatever. So we didn't want the machine to fall into his hands, so we took the keys out of it and spread them across the world.
Why not take the violence out again?
So is the machine not working anymore or not? Because if the control keys are that powerful for the machine to work, that means you've removed the block, and now everybody's evil, which is certainly what we experienced. But that's not what they said.
I don't know that everybody's evil, but it doesn't block the violent tendencies,
which there was a lot of.
But in the trial, they're like, this is our first murder trial in however many years.
Yeah, and everybody in there was part of the plot.
No.
Yes,
no.
the woman was
just
the
woman
wife was
and
evil.
just
The
the woman
judges
and that
weren't.
The judges were stupid.
Just the woman.
Well,
and
they were
that one,
stupid, but
that
they weren't
one
part of
police
it.
officer.
I don't know. This just to me, this very much felt like Terry Nation had a group of ideas and he strung them together, and he wanted to create the story. And parts of it worked. Most of it didn't. He didn't have that cohesive
Most
gel
of it
for
worked.
it.
Parts of it didn't.
I would agree with Glenn.
I go complete other way. I think the quest is cool. I think the idea of going and getting these keys to do something is cool. Putting them in different environments is fine. But that framework that you're hanging all of that on falls apart because of each of the individual little capsulated episodes doesn't mesh with what you've tried to put them in.
Yeah. I know. I enjoyed it. That was good.
I thought it was a solid,
It was a lot of fun.
Hartnell story.
Good story.
Now, having said that,
Good
I agree with
characters.
you guys about Barbara. I thought she was wonderful when she's figuring things out, and then when she goes
And when the doctor's there, I think he's fantastic, too.
when he's there, he's good.
In that fifth episode, where he's representing Ian, that was Hartnell at his best. He was really
Well,
shining.
and even when they're on the beach, if you hadn't forgotten if you had been wearing shoes, you could have helped Susan.
That's right.
I love, once again,
Alone to yours.
I love Ian. I love how man of action, and this gave him several things to do, especially when Hartnell was gone.
Yeah.
that he kind of had to take over the mantle.
It made him
of
a
this.
very strong character in this one.
I love the two. I don't know
Two
what they were.
people they picked up.
The two we picked up, Sabitha and Altos.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were really cool and great characters.
And fantastic that they are under the control. That's that bait and switch. They're under the control of these iStock brains, and suddenly when that's broke, then they're good guys, and then you find out there's actually more to them because she's the daughter of
Which Blake,
what's his name, and
Blake was here and called that one.
yeah. So I thought that was very cool, and the fact that works well to get Hartnell out of the story because it's at that point that is it Alton? Is that what they
Altos.
Altos.
So the doctor.
So Altos was actually sent ahead before them to uncover the key, but unfortunately he stalled out there, and the other guy had stalled out in the fourth area.
Yeah.
So I liked the fact that that there were actually people ahead of them that were sent off on missions.
I think part of
before.
my problem with the force location was the doctor went ahead long before everyone else. What the heck was he doing this whole time?
He said that it was weird because he said it was a.
There was like maybe a throwaway line.
It was a
when Ian shows up and it's in the museum. Okay, easy found.
I can't remember how he says it. Something about a further along society or something to that amount, which made me think, oh yeah, you guys deal with the barbaric areas. I'm going to go here where there's a little more civility, is what the impression I
take a
got.
bath.
And I thought it was strange that he would do that, but yeah.
And then I'm going to send Susan with you.
Yeah, you guys be careful. Oh, and watch out for Susan.
It's almost like, at this point,
What?
he's hoping she gets eaten.
Or like the doctor's looking for a hookup at this point.
Yeah.
I don't want Susan tagging along. This is a civilized society. I could get some.
I'm going to go hang out at the library and meet a brainy chick.
That's fantastic.
What was with the mechanized ice warriors?
Huh?
The soldiers in the tomb with the ice. Why?
Mechanized? They were
Whatever
They
were.
weren't mechanized. They were
human.
frozen.
Well, they were
no,
human.
they were Marinesses.
Well, okay, sorry.
They were frozen
humanoid.
until the key was
Yeah.
melted, and then they came to life. Why?
Because they were there to guard the key. And if somebody managed to melt the ice block, then they came to life and they stopped them from taking the key
one
away.
out of most of them, they didn't have to prove that they were sent by the guy.
Right.
That
yeah,
was the one
exactly.
out of this.
Yeah,
that
that's
they
true.
didn't have to prove.
That's true. I don't know. I thought that was cool too.
It was cheesy,
Anyway, we
but
liked it.
enjoyable.
Sean
It was like,
And the bridge stuff.
yeah.
You can't be down on this one because the next one we're all going to be down on.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't. That scene in and of itself, I mean, it's like Last Crusade. It's the knight guarding the thing. Okay, cool. If the rest of the movie had matched up with that, I'd have been all right with it. But it's random. It's just dropped in there for no reason. It's like the planet. If we've got a beach of glass and a sea of acid and then vines that take over, okay, the planet is lethal. I get it. No, not really. Because we've got brain slugs in this episode. Why couldn't that have been a fungus that was making them hallucinate and just different parts of the planet? That keys in better. There's just...
Why wouldn't they leave this planet?
Yeah.
Find a way to leave the planet.
This planet sucks. Let's move.
That's why I don't think all of it could have been environmental.
Exactly.
But
I just chalk it up to the one guy that was living in the glass house.
which
Thought
fantastic.
thought
model
up very
work.
just different, clever ways to hide these keys.
I think
protect
so,
these
too.
keys. That was just
you got to
the
put
way,
them in the
that's
most perilous
exactly,
situations.
Exactly. That was
You know,
that was
what?
him
In plain
protecting the
sight.
keys.
You know
Right.
what, quite honestly, it reminded me of G.I. Joe: The Revenge of Cobra, which is the second animated miniseries that they did. And Cobra's developed the Weather Dominator, which controls weather. And in a battle, it busts into three pieces. And one lands in the Arctic, and one lands in the Temple of Doom, and one lands in somewhere else, and they have to go and collect these pieces. That's what this is. It's that quest. And I enjoyed that as a kid. I think G.I. Joe was better written than this one. Because they put them in these inhospitable environments, and you knew that they were going to get there and have to fight their way in and fight their way out to get whatever they were trying to do. But at least the framework made sense. This didn't. It didn't have anything to do with anything else that was going on. And, okay, the guy got the key, but then we blew up the machine. And then we left. Well,
But
that didn't
no.
solve the problem on the planet.
They got the key, but
They
it
got
was
the fake key.
the fake key, which I loved
Right.
that fact.
Yeah,
that
I did like that.
Ian
That was cool.
recognized,
And it went back to the beginning. so
recognized the
second
fact that it
season.
wasn't the guy
Right.
that sent them on the quest. But there's a lot of this that even more classic and New Who pull ideas from, in my opinion. The keys, the key to time. There was the Vortex, what we called the Vortex manipulators, the wrist straps that they pulled
You
forward.
kept saying that.
I
They
called
weren't.
it that.
They were
but
they were more like portable transmat.
They
beams
were
is
more
really
like
what they were.
transmat,
They
but-
weren't. They had nothing to do with the vortex. I mean, they have vortex manipulators that
But
fit
you
on your
could-
wrist like that now. But, it was.
You could also adjust it so you don't move through time.
Yeah, except the doctor says it's a perfectly
Well, it's a great transport and a great
something way
time
to travel.
travel.
It's a perfect, but he doesn't like the vortex manipulator.
He doesn't
Right.
like it. No.
So
He didn't claim. He never gave the impression that he liked it in this either.
no, he did. When
Yeah.
they handed him out, he's like, "This is a perfectly acceptable means of travel, or
Very
satisfactory,
clever,
or
yeah, satisfactory,
clever, whatever the
something
word
like
was
that.
he used. He praised it.
Yeah, he did. He did.
So
But it was.
It wasn't a
It was
vortex.
only space.
But
it
it's
had
still
nothing to do
an
with time.
idea that they pulled and
that
built
part I'll
upon.
give you. That part I'll give
Same
you.
thing with the keys. They took that and built upon that for key to time.
Sure.
There was one other thing that's escaping me that that I thought they took the idea and built upon it, but I can't remember now.
Just a couple of cast notes. Where'd it go? Fiona Walker, who played Kala, later appeared as
Lady Fancy Pants.
Lady Fancy Pants in Silver Nemesis.
There was somebody else, too.
Which one was Kala? She was the wife,
She
right?
was the wife in the trial.
The murderous wife in the trial episode.
Yeah.
She was the one that actually killed the...
Yeah. Donald Pickering,
Yep.
who was in this, later played Baeus, which we just reviewed in Time and the Ronnie.
Mm-hmm.
He was also in the Faceless Ones, Captain Blade.
Right.
Several people, Stephen Dartnell was cast as Yartek, the Vord leader. A few weeks later, he appeared in The Censorites.
Which you never see his face, so it's stunt people,
And then
essentially.
Edmund Warwick later played a robot duplicate of the Doctor in The Chase.
Yep.
So this one's got a lot of people. Oh, and Francis D. Wolfe later played Agamemnon in The Myth Makers. Myth Makers.
Yep.
Myth.
MILF? The
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It's not that I didn't like it. I just thought...
I think maybe if you watched it in its entirety in order the first time,
I didn't go back and have to watch a piece together.
to try to figure, after knowing the resolution, I think it starts out strong and gets weaker.
Yeah, that's all right. There's no change in his mind. Let's move on to Phantasmagoria.
I didn't like it.
The
I think
TARDIS,
we're all going to be on board with this one.
the TARDIS takes the Fifth Doctor and Turlough to the London of 1702, where a mysterious highwayman roams the streets. A local occultist has made contact with the dead, and gentlemen of fashion are disappearing, only to find themselves in a chamber whose walls weep blood. The time travelers become enmeshed in the hideous plans of Sir Nicholas Valentine, a gambler at the mysterious Diablo Club, who
Diabola.
What?
Diabola, isn't it?
The Ebola Club? Is that how they said it?
I thought so.
The Ebola Club.
No, it's the Diablo.
Diablo.
It's for
It's just
for devil.
spelled funny then.
Diablo.
TARDIS Wikia has it spelled weird then.
Yeah, it's Diablo.
Diablo Club, who always seem to have a winning hand. That's it.
That's all you're getting.
Creep, 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 creep.
Oh, the many ways this story is not very good.
Let's go with... okay, we've got Mark Gatiss. Yay!
Yeah,
right?
Mark. What?
No. Not so much.
Was that who wrote this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark.
Obviously, Mark has grown as a writer since 1999.
Yes, I would agree.
I
would agree with
Leaps
that.
and bounds. He was on Twilight. He's now writing Bela Lugosi and Dracula.
That was a terrible.
That was a terrible comparison. I made the Twilight and then tried to think of Breach
Wow.
or something.
But once you've gone there, it's like anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You've gone Tim Burton to Christopher Nolan Batman. Okay, Joel Schumacher to Christopher Nolan Batman.
It's still bad analogies, but go ahead.
There are moments of this that I liked. I liked the guy in the house. I don't remember his name now.
Dr. Holloway.
Holloway, and the whole conversation that they have about the
Halliwell.
Halliwell, that's right.
Halliwell.
Samuel Halliwell.
When we've arrived in the cabinet and playing ourselves off as other people. I mean, I thought that relationship and that interaction was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the two guys that hung out in the club, and then
Flowers and
Well, Flowers was the one that got captured.
yeah, but they were the ones hanging out. They were
Cartier and
Cartier and
Jake.
Flowers.
No,
Flowers was
Jasper. No,
Jasper was one of them, and Flowers was
And
the
Flowers.
other.
Who was played by Mark.
Gaddis.
Jasper was played by Mark Ennis.
So, because they're the ones that they get robbed by
They're-
the highwayman. I
yeah.
can't remember his name, and then they're like, we made it at the tables. Maybe you should try that sometime. And the guy's like, well, and then he's all, well, you've been robbed by, and when he drops his name, they're like, oh, wow. Hey, we just got robbed by the most famous highwayman in London.
And it was a badge of honor. It's like,
Yeah, I
wow.
thought that was
I mean,
pretty cool.
it's like Robin Hood knocked us off.
That
cool.
was hilarious.
I enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah.
Some of the trappings.
I thought it
were
was
really
great, but it felt so out of place, and it didn't make sense at the time.
That's the problem. Is
I don't know who this person is to begin with.
The trappings are cool, but the rest of this is kind of the same problem. The trappings are cool, but the story doesn't make any sense. I don't care about this guy.
It takes too long to figure out who the highwayman actually is,
and it doesn't. It almost doesn't matter who the highwayman is, because the highwayman is also disguised as somebody else in this story as well, and so it just. I mean, if they were one or the other, I mean, I understand that she was utilizing, or this being was utilizing two different forms in order to hide away.
That idea.
Clever, but it's almost like the highwayman thing was underused. It's almost like they needed, like there's really only two. No, there's only two.
Well, yeah.
Because isn't he the one that ends up shooting, what's his name?
He's the one that saves the doctor.
Yeah, but he ends up shooting somebody in the middle of that. I can't remember what it was.
Remember that
he ends
part.
up killing somebody.
Because when they made the reveal that Hannah was Lovemore, I was like, wait, who's Lovemore?
Lovemore, that's the highwayman, yeah. Okay.
There was the reveal, well, I guess
remember the guy's
it
name.
was 3/4 of the way through the reveal. The cliffhanger was, I will miss being Lovemore, but I'll miss being Hannah more.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's Lovemore? I don't remember this character.
I remember Lovemore, but Lovemore kills the guy that was
Valentine.
No, Valentine lives till the end.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, at the end. He
But
kills
no,
him.
Lovemore kills somebody halfway through. I think it was the
only
guy that was
person-
hitting on Helena.
The only person I remember dying was the one that died of heart attack from the spirits.
Gosh, I've got to look this up because I know that there was that whole scene where he meets him in the alleyway, and they have that confrontation, and then he ends up shooting him or whatever.
David Williams, who played Quincy Flowers / Ned Cotton, which Flowers is the guy that gets captured, would later play Gibbous in The God Complex. The mouse-looking dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't like it.
This was
This was a very, very weak Big Finish, and probably
it's a shame it's number 2.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, this shows that Big Finish is finding its legs.
very much,
Very
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
This one in particular,
And I can
almost
chalk that up to it because we're so many in. If I had been listening to release time, listen to 1. I wasn't a huge fan of 1, but I liked it better than this.
Yeah.
And then this one, I would be hard pressed to come back for 3.
That's just it. If you go in release order, you get through Sirens of Time, and I mean, we've all talked about it. The Sirens of Time was fun, but it's fun because it's a multi-doctor story.
And it's fun because
That's
of
the gimmick
4.
of that one.
The 4th episode part of the story
Where they all get
is
together.
what makes it fun.
That's the gimmick of that episode. So you go from, okay, well, that was a gimmick, but it was fun. Then you go into this one, and it's like, is this what it's going to be like from this point on? Because this is just dismal.
It's my biggest complaint with it was there was too many characters to try to keep track that all sounded very similar. I was confused through 3/4 of this story until they finally started explaining things of what's going on.
Which I don't mind that. I don't mind you keeping me in the dark.
I don't mind keeping it in the dark, but
if
I
at least
have to-
entertain me while I'm in the dark, or make that payoff so amazing that it's worth my being in the dark for this long to get to that point. And this one just didn't feel like it.
I don't mind being in the dark. I don't like being confused. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And I was confused.
I'm also not a big fan of the Hellfire Club that we've got.
Diablo.
Diablo Club?
Well, loosely based on the Hellfire Club, which
Is it? Which comes back
already,
later.
I mean, well, because we've already had it because we reviewed them out of order. But I mean, it comes back
Obviously,
again
they
and
take
again and
this
again.
and expand upon it.
Yeah, I just was like, okay, so there's a club, big club. I mean, get
Well,
over it.
I think
This one seems so much milder than the others.
Yeah. Well, this is what the Hellfire Club would have originally been. This is what they were
This is what a
modeling.
real
That's
life
what they were modeling the
Hellfire
Hellfire Club off of in Minuet in Hell. This is what it would really would have been. It was a place of debauchery. Obviously, they had prostitutes, they had gambling, that was a thing that they did.
But see, I didn't think it was all that bad.
But no, it wasn't. But I don't think that we were focusing too much on that. I didn't have a problem with the Diablo Club because really all it was a place where the seedier types went, and that's where Valentine was doing his operations. That was a place where he was. People would gamble. He would end up, basically throwing his hand and letting them win so that he could give them the marker and then collect on them later because that was the homing beacon that was sending the consciousness of all these people out to torment them.
And Valentine, I don't know about you guys, but he was the quintessential mustache twirling villain. He was eating the furniture.
It was very
scenery.
atypical melodrama villain, if you ask me.
Well, and did anybody have any kind of surprise left in them that he's an alien?
No.
I almost wish
you
he
knew
hadn't
from
been.
episode 1 he was behind it.
Yeah, I mean, well, there wasn't any mystery there, but I almost wish he had just been a mustache twirling villain. That would have been slightly more interesting.
Yeah.
Than he's an alien.
I'll tell you, I did
and the maid is an alien.
Well, that was just it. That was kind of cool. Is one thing that happened for me this time that. In the second time listening, it was the two alien voices that kept throughout that were like somebody's contacts.
Yeah,
that was kind of weird, and I couldn't figure out what was going on there. But you're set up to think that maybe they're the menacing behind this, that maybe they're in cahoots with Valentine. Then to find out that they're actually in cahoots with Helena, they're her contact. I liked that. That was kind of clever. It was a nice ruse in order to make you think they're one thing and then find out that there's something else.
Helena's the best character in this. I liked her in her guise as the maid. I liked her in her guise as the highwayman. But she didn't have much to do.
Yeah, quite frankly.
And then she sacrifices herself.
Time, I was like Keith. The first time that I listened to this, I just would get lost in places. It wasn't quite. I didn't feel like it was quite flowing. This time, listening to it the second time through, it made more sense. I was able to follow it better, but I just didn't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah,
sometimes I'll re-listen to something and having already known what the devices are, what the plot is,
what the
story is,
aspects of it.
I didn't enjoy this anymore the second time.
This is also the first one.
So now I feel bad that last week we told Moldwich to go find your favorite doctor.
Yeah, especially
and he tweeted
5.
out that it was 5 right now. So he's going to pick up Phantasmagoria as his first big finish. Mark skipped this one.
Yeah, well,
if it's not too late,
stick with it. Let's just say that. I think Peter Davison was very Peter Davison in this. I mean,
this was the one that took me the
like
most.
The Fifth Doctor.
Well, this is the one that took me the most mental adjustment because, as we discussed, when I hear Peter Davison in the audio ventures, I have to reset my brain to Time Crash Peter Davison and not Fifth Doctor Peter Davison. But then when they give us Turlough, and so Turlough still sounds like Turlough to me.
No, he sounds older to me. That's what threw me off on this. That's what threw me off is because
his voice is dropped.
I've gotten used to Peter Davison sounding older now, listening to Big Finish, and so I do kind of the same thing. I have to put myself in Time Crash Doctor mode, but it still works for me. But I think the mannerisms are there, the tones are there, that kind of things. It's just not the same pitch or level. Suddenly, then they throw Turlough in there, and I thought, he sounds a little older now, and so that threw me off. In this
I could still recognize him as Turlough.
Yeah, absolutely. You can still same thing with the Doctor. You still recognize him as the Fifth Doctor. It's just
honestly, I enjoyed this Turlough more than other Turloughs that I've seen.
Yeah, this is a less selfish Turlough, more of a
granted, I've seen the selfish
sure
and then
himself,
the end.
and it's
well. This is also the first Turlough that you've been exposed to that's just Turlough without having the rest of the Team TARDIS,
That's true.
clinging onto him, which I think changes the dynamic pretty substantially.
I think so too. When the girls are gone, it suddenly becomes just a different game with the two of them. I mean, it becomes a different dynamic between the two of them. So.
Yeah, very much so.
Not much more I can say about this one.
No, it's a disappointing story, and
there are some nice bits where he's going through his pockets and cricket ball and a ball of string, and then the whole.
It was not even a ball of string; it was just a wad of string.
A wad of string, yeah. So. And the entire time with the.
I was hoping to pull out a Kittle.
Yeah.
Well, and I really like the idea of the playing cards being these
homing beacons.
Yeah, that's
a very
good
clever,
idea.
cool idea.
Well,
and that made me appreciate Valentine a little bit more.
And the tie-in of the, I'm assuming, was Cricket Manual from the beginning.
Yeah, it was an
and then
almanac, actually. but
Almanac, and
he
then
was
puts it in.
teaching Turlo cricket, basically, out of the almanac,
Yeah.
which I thought was kind of cool.
Which part of it was lost on me because I'm American.
Yeah.
But the fact that it comes back around,
I like that-
I
I like
appreciated that fact.
I like that Turlo is picking up on it, but still doesn't have any appreciation for the game. That was kind of cool.
All right, so that's a sticky wicket, right? Okay.
Anyway, anything else you guys want to talk about Phantasm?
I think the less said, the better in this
All
case.
right,
It's
very
just
good. Well, let's talk about the schedule. What's next on the schedule?
Douglas Adams. Next week, Friday Night Who? City of Death.
Not Shada, as we once planned.
Not Shada, as we once planned. Still not Shada.
Right, still not Shada. We're still working on that, though.
But next week, we'll be doing City of Death for Friday Night Who with Tom Baker. And then,
Tom Baker, Lala Ward, John Cleese.
Ooh, why you spoil that? Ooh.
He knows that John Cleese
He
is
didn't know
in
John
it.
Cleese.
Honestly, I didn't.
Well, we talked about the Monty Python reference. I said, yeah, John Cleese is actually in it.
Would have forgotten all about that
I guess
until he
so.
watched it.
Yeah.
I would have. I didn't know. I couldn't remember which story it was.
Oh, okay.
See?
I screwed it up.
What about Neeson?
Who?
Neeson?
Nisa?
Neeson?
John Neeson.
John
Yeah.
Neeson?
K9 in the story?
Oh.
I don't think so.
He's somewhere.
He is somewhere. He gets put aside, though.
Yeah, I don't think he's much in it.
No, I think
but
he's
that's
in
okay. You'll be having such a rollicking good time. You'll be okay
Yeah.
without it. I mean, look at what. Oh, who's the guy? Julian Glover? No,
No,
Crispin
this
Glover.
isn't. This
No.
isn't Julian.
Crispin Glover?
This isn't Julian Glover.
He would be really young.
Who's the? You know, the guy. God, my brain
This
sucks.
is. I keep wanting to say Donald Pleasance. That's not.
It is Julian Glover.
Is it?
Yeah.
No.
Who's Julian Glover?
He was.
Oh yes.
Donovan
Yes.
in
This
Last
is
Crusade.
yeah. This is Julian Glover. He was also General Veers in
General Veers and Empire
Empire
Strikes
Strikes
Back.
Okay.
Yeah, this one is Julian.
I
That's right.
recognize him.
That's right.
Okay.
So he's in it.
That's
Yay.
pretty cool.
And
Look at that. There's a big sticker on here. It says co-written by Douglas Adams.
we get. They're in Paris, location shooting. We get the Mona Lisa, and then we get the Mona Lisa, and then we get the Mona Lisa.
Shh. Now you're going to spoil it.
But the Mona Lisa's in.
By the way, this was written by
Wherever-
David Agnew.
It was what?
Written by David Agnew, which is a pseudonym for David Fisher, Douglas Adams, and Graham
Oh,
Williams.
that's right, okay.
They actually all contributed to that. So.
But then we're going to talk ad
I'm
nauseum
excited about that,
City of
'cause I
Death.
like City of Death.
I do too. We're going to talk quite a bit about it, and it's the only thing on the docket for next week.
Yeah.
And then the following week, we get more Tom Baker. We're going back to one of my all-time favorite stories, the Android Invasion.
Oh, yes.
Sarah Jane. Unfortunately, it's a Terry Nation, but we'll let that slide. And
It is a Terry Nation?
I'm pretty sure it's
story.
Terry. It's
Oh,
the-
it is. You're right.
it's the- like
it
the
is
only
the
one he
only
wrote that-
other Daleks besides Keys of Marinus. Everything
Yeah.
else he wrote was Dalek.
Everything else he wrote
That's
was
right.
Daleks.
I
But
forgot
there's
about
This is
that.
the only other non-Dalek.
the only
Right.
other
The only other
non-Dalek.
non-Dalek Android Invasion.
How did
Or,
I get those
I
together?
started
Those two.
Survivors, a series based off of one of his books.
Oh, yeah?
I never finished it, but it was enjoyable.
But so that'll be coming up, and then on the horizon we've got some Torchwood coming up. We're going to finally hit Keith over the head with Children of Earth,
Finally.
and then hopefully Shada. And,
Hopefully.
we just
We'll get it in there, people. We
a
promise.
little bit of news. We just got approval to be on a special list for some stuff coming up.
Yeah.
So
Right. Very good.
that's it.
Anything else we want to talk about? No house cleaning. We're all done.
I think we're all done.
All right. Very good. Well, that's going to do it this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Be seeing you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.